So welcome everybody. This is a webinar by the Instructional Design and Learning SIG. Today our speaker is the fabulous Dr. Jackie Damrau, BPMN. She's going to talk to us today about her career reinvention. Jackie's going to tell us a little bit about her professional history, but I just wanted to highlight some of the things that I know about Jackie from STC. Not only is Jackie a fellow and a member of the Lone Star chapter, she's also in the Instructional Design and Learning SIG. She's a former manager, SIG manager. She's also a former assistant SIG manager. She's been on the nominations committee for STC Mothership and general manager of the International Summit Awards. The other thing I know about Jackie is that she has the ability to make everyone feel welcome. I have, in my early days of STC, showing up at a summit, not really knowing everybody, and I have memories of Jackie making me feel welcome and feeling part of the family. So thank you so much for that, Jackie.
You're welcome.
So we are recording, and we're ready for you to talk to us about your career.
Okay, well, welcome everyone. And as I'm going through, please just stop me and let's talk. If anything resonates or you want to ask a question, this is a different type of webinar about my career path and how I got to where I am. So I know that you'll probably all have lots of questions. So to start off, as Vicki told you, some of the things about me. Some people call me Dr. Jackie, and that's perfectly fine. It was a personal goal to get a doctorate in business administration, so that's a whole nother story. But my first technical communicator job title, I started as a technical writer. Prior to that, I did a lot of stuff in the secretarial field. I, from high school, thought I wanted to be a legal secretary and went and got a certificate in that and quickly found out that was not my life's dream. I have lived through technical writing, technical editor, through instructional designer, back to technical writer, and now into a senior business systems analyst role. So how I present myself basically is I am a business process management professional. Lots of words for saying that I like to draw nice pictures of business processes, very few words, and I do analysis. I write requirement documents that requires technical communication. I create presentations and help files, and that requires instructional delivery and design. And I do a whole lot of other things, but I always fall back on my technical communication background and my instructional design skills to lead me to where I need to go to do what a business analyst would do. So you too can be a business analyst when your career path takes a turn. Look at other options because our skills are transferable. We just might have to learn a few new things. I do hold a couple of certifications. BPMN, after my name, stands for Business Process Modeling and Notation. I am a certified professional in that. A very gruesome certification, but once you have it, you can draw pretty pictures like I do. And then I also have another certification for another business process management application suite called ERIS. And you can find me on Twitter and LinkedIn. Mostly I hang out in LinkedIn, very little on Twitter, but that's a brief look at me. So what have I been? You can see a laundry list from when I started working in 1976. So yes, my gray hair is well earned. And you can see here I've held many different things. I have been a typesetter. So in the days before computers, I did a lot of typesetting. So I almost think I was back in the Gutenberg days because that's what it felt like. But that all had something to do with technical communication, and then I launched into actual writing in probably, let's see, I guess you can kind of say I entered the world of technical writing when I was a word processor and that was back in the days of word processing tools. And I was the different type of word processor or technical typist. I would type somebody else's work, but as I was typing it into the system we were using, I was editing someone else's work as I was going because I could not stand bad grammar. It just drove me crazy. And I had worked with a group of people. They typed what they saw, regardless if it was good, bad, or indifferent. That's what they did. I couldn't do that. I still can't do that today. It drives me crazy. So I guess I'm OCD. So I took those skills and I kept moving along in my career field. I didn't know what I wanted to be. I went from being a word processor, minimum wage, to trying management for a while, production supervisor and office manager. Quickly discovered I am not management material. I would rather be the doer than the boss. So that I fell back into what I love, which is editing, and learned a whole new skill of things. So as you can see, I progressed on through a lot of writing, proposal writing, and then I fell into curriculum developer. Not anything that I had remotely in my vision to ever want to become. Didn't know what one was. But I started a job at Perot Systems, working with a former friend from the superconducting super collider here in Dallas. And 3 months in, I started as a technical writer, but 3 months in I was told by my friend that hired me, I'm leaving and you're going to assume the team and you are now a curriculum developer. Okay, what does that mean? So I had to quickly learn about instructional design. Knew nothing about it. There were no degree programs about it. Vaguely knew of this thing called IDL SIG and the STC, so I started reaching out to Jane Smith at the time, who was the SIG manager, and just asking questions. And so I have honed my instructional design skills by volunteering and learning and reading and doing anything I could to stay current in the field. And then I wanted more. Not necessarily instructional design. I really liked the writing. I wanted to get back to writing. And then I morphed into a business analyst role, because that was where I really could use my presentation skills I learned in instructional design. I could use my writing skills and my editing skills to build the career that I have now. So this just kind of shows you that, in high school, I majored in business. My entire life has been business. I launched into IDL. Again, a lot of kudos go to the people that helped grow me along the way in my career growth. So the graphic here in the upper left, for you all, would be my upper right, is what does it take to be a technical writer, versus the lower one, what does it take to be an instructional designer. We share very much the same concepts and ideas. And the thing that I want to stress here is this last bullet. I'm always looking for my next opportunity. I'm always trying to stay current, even if it's in a field I'm not familiar with. Like right now I work for a commercial real estate company, so I'm learning a lot of real estate 101 just to know what it is my company does, but I work in IT supporting accounting services. So I really don't have a lot to do with the real estate world because it's IT based, but I have to know something about the real estate world. And how did I get my job? I have gone through probably just about everything any of you have gone through except social media. I'm not weighing in yet on if social media is the next best way to get a job, but I have used contract agencies. I have used what once was the classifieds in newspapers. They still exist, but not as much as anymore. And friends and word of mouth, and just through direct promotions. And the funny thing about the 2 promotions that I received, I had to ask for those. Most companies, after years of service, your manager will promote you, and I would, in 2 instances, see people around me getting promoted and wondering, where's mine? Where's mine? I started asking my manager, and he says, well, I don't have time to write the paperwork. And I said, well, what is the paperwork? Can I write it? I'm a writer. Let me write it. One of those, I created a new position for myself, wrote the job description for myself, and had my manager sign it. That's how I got promoted. I did his work. He signed it. I got it. So always step out and ask. If you want a promotion, say, what does it take to get there? Can I help you write it? Because you know better what you do than anybody else. So some self-study. The IDL books that I started with, that I would, one of them is still probably practical today. I know that it's gone through some new revisions, is the Mager 6-pack. Very good set of 6 books. They're thin, but they're very full of information. An older book that helped me learn was Rapid Instructional Design by George Piskarich. And then this book, the last book, Developing Training Courses, is very dated, but it was written by a former STC member who had gone from a technical writer to an instructional designer. So this was about 15 years ago. Corbis Rivas Hassel wrote this. It's probably still relevant today in its content. And my view, sometimes if you go back in history and see what was written about instructional design, you can reuse some of that and bring it into current day. For the business design field, basically, if you want to get into business analysis or business modeling, the books that are shown here are the best resources today. These are the most current resources. My BPMN certification came from reading this book and taking Bruce Silver's class. And then business process change. You have to know about how business processes are continually changing. They change more than anything else I've seen. The processes don't stay. It used to be at least 6 months to a year. You could write something, put it down, go away, and it would come back through cycle, and you would revise it 6 months or a year from now. I have things that we send it out to release this month. It will come back next month for something else. I have 7 different projects rolling right now that keep coming back. They don't go away. And then there is a book of knowledge on the business process management space. So, yes, I have some degrees and some certifications. As I said, my degrees were all personal goals of my own. My certificates in information design and my advanced professional certificate were things to see if I really knew what I thought I knew about the fields, because I self-taught myself everything I know. And it was a good thing to take these certificate courses to find out that what I did on my own was exactly what they teach you and charge you money for. So I did it without having to spend a lot of money, but it was a nice compliment to understand that I was doing the right things. And it's very brief, but this is the time for you to ask me questions of you're thinking of reinventing yourself and doing something else, or listening to the others who have reinvented themselves. Because a collective body, we all have our stories, but I want to give you the opportunity to have open discussion with other people on the phone.
So you can type your questions into the chat box, or you can just speak up. If you're dialed in with a phone.
Vicki, have you were not always an instructional designer, correct?
No, my degree is in industrial engineering, actually. So I'm way far away from what I'm doing today as far as like my education. I mean, I certainly use my engineering brain, but I don't do any more engineering. And I just kind of stumbled into instructional design because I loved it, and I started doing it along with my general user assistants. And it seemed as though that my user base also liked the instruction more than they liked the other types of user assistants. And so I just got to do what I love doing.
Very good.
Paula is typing. I did figure out how. I'm going to try to unmute
Fair
people.
warning, I'm going to call on my friends that are out there and on the phone that can share with others, just because I can. But so, Vicki, when you got your industrial engineering degree, what were you thinking then? You were going to become an engineer, or?
Well, yeah, I loved, well, of course, there was no technical writing training and that kind of thing. You know, we sort of predate the formal technical writing training, right?
Correct. And that's a whole thing with inventing yourself. The way we have had to is back in the time that we became technical writers, there were no real technical writing programs or degrees. You could take English, and there might be a small technical writing component in English, but everything was relegated to the humanities. So.
And I just turned everybody's microphones on. So if you have a microphone available on your computer, try saying something to us.
So Paula says, I am the editor for a K through 12 curriculum development team. Many of them have PhDs. She does not have any background in education, has been struggling to find a way to get up to speed and speak their language. Any thoughts? What I did, Paula, and this worked for me, was if you're looking at speaking the language of curriculum development, it's all in reading, and in education, it's also in just, I did a lot of reading of academic stuff, reaching out to friends. Jane McKenzie was one that really helped me because she had done some secondary teaching in her early career. So she had a lot of good tips and tricks for me to use. As far as speaking their language, it's just listening to them and adapting some of what they have. I did spend a couple of years at back then it was ASTD, it's ATD now, Association for Training and Development, just to get a feel for what it was a training person did, and that was far more than what I wanted to be doing at the time. But I spent a lot of time just reading a lot of books. So I'm going to call on Dr. Betty Fricke. Betty, do you have any suggestions for people? Because I know you've been out there too.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. I was just typing, Jackie. So this is Betty Fricke, and thanks, Jackie, for sharing your your travels and your journey through the career path, I think a lot of us probably have emulated that sort of transferring of skills. I know when I got out of graduate school with a doctorate in English, which is worth about as much in industry as a bachelor's in English, right? Anyway, I was lucky enough to get involved in the precursor to e-learning, which was the laser discs. This was back in 1988, 1989, great big laser discs. And so I was thrust into writing scripts for essentially e-learning with actually no background. And yeah, I would love to have known, I'd love to have had the internet, I'd love to have had SPC. I didn't. I was just flailing around. But in the meantime, then I developed training for myself. I got laid off on that job. And I developed training for myself to teach in writing. And I found that I could go into companies and governments and organizations and teach people how to write better. And that's really what I love to do. I mean, that was, it's really very good. So that was the direction I went. Then when training crashed in 2008, remember the recession, and nobody was training, I went into medical editing, and because that pays, theoretically that pays the most, so I joined AMWA and went through and took certificates, which were not inexpensive, but they weren't horribly expensive, and continue. I think the key, Jackie, from what you're saying and from what I've experienced, is that the key is just to be willing to continually learn, whether it's formal, and I'm doing air quotes that you can't see, but whether it's formal training or whether it's informal training where you pick people's brains. Like Jane, I know Jane is amazing. She will share anything she knows with you. She's a born teacher, so help. And then but the key to it though is you've got to turn around and share back. It's give back what you've been given. You've got to pay it back, pay it forward, I guess.
Right.
So I don't know. Is that what you were looking for, Jackie?
Yeah. I mean, the one thing that I can tell you, if you're thinking of launching into a different career, like we tell anyone that's just coming into technical writing field, use the same ideas as create a portfolio, create an imaginary company, and do some research, do a literature review, find out about that field, and then create something, a document or whatever type of deliverable is in that field. If you do enough Googling or Binging or whatever verb you want to use there, look at examples that are out there. There's enough out there, and I just go look at a lot of Google images looking for template ideas to see, because some companies unknowingly, whatever they put on the internet, some of the stuff I question, why is that in a Google image? But okay, you're leaving me a lot of content to look at and borrow, but I look more at the structure, at what I can borrow from different pieces, and that's how I get a lot of my current knowledge. Is I just spend a lot of time looking at what somebody else is doing and going, how can I adapt that to do what I want it to do, and reading articles and such. Let's see. So we had a comment from Sylvia to Paula's question to pick up some used education textbooks and browse education websites. That's also a good thing to do, is if you have like an independent used recycler like we have here in Dallas, Half Price Books, they have a whole huge education section, and then they have their $2 and below books. I go spend some time in there and just rifle through what they have, especially for the K-12 with so much in the state of Texas. We have a large contingent of homeschooling going on. There's always stuff out there. I pick up the most simplest stuff and look at it too and get ideas from what others are doing. Let's see. So I'm going to call next on Melissa. You're out there and on the phone. You had some career reinvention in your life history, too.
Oh, yeah. I've done technical writing, business analysis, and instructional design. I have a degree in education, so I come from a background of teaching. And it's been a while since I've actually worked with instructional design, but I think of technical writing as teaching. It's just with words on paper, that's all. But definitely networking has been the way to end up working. Few of the jobs that I've had have come from actual answering job posts.
Oh, great. So to kind of bring it back, what direct instructional design questions do any of you have about the field in itself, or are you struggling with something currently that this collective body could potentially help give you a different perspective on? You can put it in the chat.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff happening in the chat, Jackie. You've seen it.
Yeah,
Been
I'm
watching
seeing it. You know, for those on the phone, Mary Ann responded to Paula, or responded saying, sounds like Paula's looking for domain knowledge. She's find out what resources the K through 12 curriculum developers are using, and Betty rejoined ACD this year because their conference was in Denver, which is always good because they do have several different factions of training out there, leadership training and so forth, and gaming is becoming something very prominent. If you're really into the gaming world for instructional design, one of our own STC members that I would say reach out to is Marta Rausch. She is high into the gaming world. While she works at Oracle, she's very high in the gaming world and the Google Glasses and that kind of thing, but she's a really good resource on gaming. And then Paula responded that she did buy the Understanding by Design, which is the Curriculum Developer Bible, but hasn't read it yet. So, and David's wanting to know, how do you break into the profession? So David, is that the profession of IDL? If that's what you're asking about, many different ways you can do that. Volunteer to do things in IDL SIG, volunteer to do a webinar. It doesn't mean you have to be knowledgeable as some of us are, but present a different idea on a piece of instructional design and give us your perspective. The other thing that I would say in breaking into our profession is you can always volunteer if you have a child in an elementary school. Volunteer to help tutor those children and learn how to speak their language, because a lot of times what we as instructional designers provide, I hate to say this, but it has to be written in a lower level education level than we would normally want to write for. Some of us would like to write for the 8th grade and above level, but to be honest, a lot of people don't want to read these days, so we write it at a lower level than 8th grade reading. I mean, when I was doing instructional design, I was working on a medical software package for our county hospital here, and doctors and nurses were the main audience for this. I had written my instructional design script for probably about a 8th to 10th grade level, meaning these are doctors and nurses, have gone through multiple years of education. I was told to cut my language down to 3rd grade language because they don't have time to read. And I'm like, these are doctors. 3rd grade? You're really telling me I have to go down to 3rd grade level? But you do. So I would say find an opportunity and stretch and create an deliverable that would meet that. It can be very simple. I mean, you see my presentation is very kind of, I don't know, intriguing. I have some graphics. I'm going to back up here. I don't want to give anybody motion sickness, but very simple and plain. Some people like simple and plain. A few graphics to kind of cut down the amount of words. I don't have to say so many words because it's in talking notes. That's the main presentation thing these days. Few words, more pictures. Again, this helps the three types of learners that we have. You have the auditory learner who's listening to me and taking away content because they're not paying attention to what I've got written on the slide. They hear it and it sinks in better. Your kinesthetic learner that has to see something to tie the text to what they're going to remember, because you'll only remember 20% of what I'm telling you anyway. So the picture goes with the word, and you'll remember the picture or you'll remember the word. And then your visual learner. Your visual learner will only remember the pictures, won't remember the words, and may remember some of the audio. So it's just, you have to have a happy medium in knowing your audience, but you can see through here, I kind of go off and on to graphics and plain, and my presentation style kind of gives you that. You can look at it briefly and move out. Let's see what else we have here. So how did you become a business process management professional? Like everything else in my career, I've fallen into it, basically. I was working as a knowledge management analyst at a telecommunications company and was asked by directors like, well, we have this new group starting that wants to draw pretty pictures of SAP processes. Are you interested? Sounded cool. I get over there and find out that it's business process modeling and management. Had no idea what that was. I knew how to do flow charts from computer science, but this was different. The type of diagrams I draw now are much different than what you learn in a computer science program or your standard flow charting. There's a lot of rules that go with how you position a diagram. So if you go look at, David, if you look at my LinkedIn page, you'll find some presentations. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. Pardon me. On business process modeling and management, but it's just something I fell into and worked with a lot of business analysts, and I was like, I can do what they do. Why are they different than me? Bless me. So I just picked up again. I just started reading different types of websites, looking at LinkedIn groups I could join, reading books, couple websites. If you catch me offline, I'll give you the real leaders and gurus. And this last year, I was able to go to a business management conference where I met 3 of the top gurus in the field. That it was just a pleasure to get to sit through their 4-hour workshop and literally speak to them one-on-one. And they even emailed me this year saying, are you coming? Are you coming? It's like, no, I'm not going to make it this year. I mean, I guess I made an impression. I didn't think I did. I thought I was just a normal person in the audience of 50, but I guess not. Okay. So let's see. Ruth, totally agree. My job uses a BPM system, ProMap, that lets users toggle between visual flow and text. Visual flow, I'm finding, and you will probably find this too, the more that you work, and if anyone out there is a millennial, apologies for what I'm going to say, so do not take it incorrectly, but millennials tend to not want to read, and executives, no matter what their age range, choose not to want to read a lot. Time is very precious to them. I find that visual presentation is much easier than to read text-based content. So desktop procedure, where instructional design, we write procedures that say, if you're filling in a form, on the name field, do this. On the address field, do that. You know, the typical type of computer instruction we've always written or seen or followed. I'm finding now if I put that into a flow chart, it reads much easier and people can just follow along and it's boom, boom, boom. They like picture, they don't like text so much because text can be a fickle thing. It can be misread easily. And the other thing with doing a visual is it restricts the amount of words that you can use. So you really have to use minimalist writing. And if you haven't heard of that, I entice you to go research minimalist writing. Bernarda Schwanden talks about it and several others in our organization. But it's how to write less, write more with less, basically, and get the point across. So anything else out there? I see a couple typing, Robert and Marianne. We'll wait for them to come through, or anyone on the phone. Betty, you have anything you want to share?
Sorry, Jackie, I had to unmute my phone. No, you're doing great.
Unmute yourself.
Yeah, you're doing great, and I have to go now. But thank you so much for all of this. I can't wait to get
Thank
the
you, Betty.
Chat log.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
So Robert responds, blocks millennials here where he works, and definitely need the visuals, the videos to keep getting information across. And that's the other thing. Videos are very good. I find in my early years with videos, I would turn off the transcripting because it just drove me crazy. And now I find I tend to turn off the audio and read the transcript instead. The audio drives me crazy. I don't know why. I don't know if that's an age thing. And since I am almost up there in years, I will include it's probably my age showing. But videos are very popular, but they're not always the right answer. There's a happy medium for where a video should be used, so always cautionarily look at your audience and see if the video is going to really be the thing to deliver the message you want it to deliver. And Marianne says, especially true when writing for global audiences, most of us do most of the time these days. Yes, we write for a large amount of global audiences, and if your information is not going through a localization team or a globalization team, we have to be very careful how we write to not offend other cultures. And even the videos, the content of the videos, the graphical images we use, we have to be so aware of, if I use this, will I offend any other culture that I don't intend to offend if something gets translated to a different language. I work, like I said, I work for a commercial global real estate company. We are everywhere. There's nowhere we're not. And every time I write something, I have to be very careful and think and do some research on my own of certain country cultures and go, well, if I say this or use this graphic, will it be appropriate? So it's very, very tricky. Okay, Marianne says she was referring to visual focus, minimalism, and use of standard English or similar restricted terminology. Very true. Standard English, again, we have to be very careful with wording. So that, unless anyone else has anything to share, I have nothing more.
On the subject of videos, I have done a lot of videos here at my office, and it seems like my user group will watch 3. So as long as I make them 3, then all my videos will get watched. But I once did a project where I made no fewer than 17 videos. It took a long, long time. And they just watched the first 3. Because once you've sort of gotten yourself over the fear hump, then you're more likely to sort of plunge into the, I write for software, plunge into the software, and then you can sort of find your own way. So we definitely offer a bunch of different choices, but as far as videos go, 3 seems to be the magic number here.
Now, I write some help files for the things that we're automating accounting services processes right now. And I write the help files for that and attach it to the application that we actually use for the automation components. And it's interesting in that I provide the help file, but we have statistics to date that show that nobody has gone into the help files. It's quite interesting that they require it as part of the project. But we can literally on our side tell that you've never hit the help button on any screen in the application. You've never pressed F1 to look at the file. And we keep coming back with, we can save you money if we don't write these. And they're going, no, 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 you need to write them. And we go, finally I asked them why. Oh, well, we look at it one time, and I think I provide it in our SharePoint folder, but we take that and we use it for our training materials so that they never have to look in the help file. They have it at their desk. And I'm like, but that's the whole thing of having it in the application. So where you're at, you can find it right then, and that concept hasn't quite gone through to them.
But you're creating great content for them.
Yes.
So they're using it. Great. Okay, so we have a lot of people typing.
Yeah. Paula said my link to onlinelearning.com may have been incorrect. I believe if they're still in existence, online-learning.com, but this was several years ago. It was a Canadian-based company that in the U.S. was working through Ohio University. It's possible they're no longer in existence. They were an STC member at one time. But, okay, so a couple more people typing here. Okay, looks like online-learning.com is it. Paula found it. They do have their information design certificate is really nice. And back when I took it, the thing that I most enjoyed was that was at the beginning of XML entering our field. And the very first class that I had to take was a technical writing class, which, you know, I think I know everything there is to know about technical writing. Not so. I learned a lot. But the very first assignment we had was to write our resume in XML, straight XML code. And that was the most interesting piece to me because that really, I loved that and wanted to do more. But I enjoyed the class. All right, anyone else have anything to share? Well, Vicki, I don't think anyone has anything more to share, so I will leave it up to you how we spend the
Okay. So I know what comes next. Everybody, the little man with his hand up button, let's all give Jackie some applause. Yep. And show some appreciation for her sharing her journey and her advice and guidance. And in fact, thank everyone for sharing their journey and their advice and guidance. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and leave the meeting open for a little bit longer. That way, if you have a question you didn't want to have on the recording,